Yeah, I don't know, man. You ever just feel like life is just catapulting towards some greater purpose?
Average Podcasts with bloated ego. We are the only DJ crazy enough to tattoo Jackie Brown on his ass.
This is Michael Mann, and I ride with
Extended clip.
I don't know, man. The way these forklift drivers
Yeah, I
are
was gonna
going,
say.
seems like they were doing something.
yeah.
Yeah, these are the guys you see at 7-Eleven, like buying like beer at like noon.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
seriously, yeah, or at like 6 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I used to see that a lot. Like on a lot of set jobs, I would just would stop in for like an energy drink and a protein bar or something like that on the way to work because I couldn't wait for like work breakfast, and I would just see dudes buying tall boys at like 5:30 in the morning. And it's just like, is this even legal? I thought it was just like, I guess, maybe they stop selling beer at like 2 a.m. and then they start again at like 5, And I can't tell if they're like getting beer to bring to work with them or if they're just still drinking from the night before,
Yeah, because we know the cutoff time, but when are the gates let back open?
Yeah.
It must be like 5 or 6 a.m.
Which is crazy because like, what's the point then?
Yeah.
For the day drinkers, the night shift warriors.
I didn't even know there was a cutoff time. I mean, it just mostly I'm not buying beers from a 7-Eleven at 2 a.m. to test it out.
You're not pushing the limits like that?
Yeah, no, I did not know that was a thing.
That might only be a California thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't
in
buy
other states.
You can't buy beer at like gas stations in Pennsylvania.
True. Got to go to the beer store.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just two addendums to that. I
mean,
I remember like I've seen multiple times just like pull up to a gas station and then there's like a guy just like chugging his tall boy like parked right next to me.
Yeah.
I've seen that a couple times. Very funny. And two, talking about like liquor in other states, like I think in Utah, like I think all the beer has to be like under 5%. So there's like specialty like 4% beers that they only have in Utah.
Whoa.
Damn.
That's like beer knowledge, I guess. That might be a barstool fact, but it is. I am just as a beverage connoisseur. I am kind of enticed by this idea that there's like this whole other section of the factory that they're mixing up a special brew.
Speaking of beverage news, I need to consult Baby Bobby Franco about chugging expertise because while I'm in Pittsburgh, there's apparently a pickle fest, and there is a contest who can ever chug a quart of Pittsburgh Pickle Company's pickle elixir the fastest will be deemed the winner of their round and vie for the title of the Duke of Drinking.
So no grand prize reward? Is it all just for the glory?
When you started revving up this story, I was thinking just like a jar of pickle juice, like you take all the pickles out of the jar and you're just chugging that juice. But it sounds like a branded flavored drink. Is it an alcoholic drink?
Assuming the Duke of Drinking, it has to be some sort of like alcoholic, like probably like pickle whiskey thing.
I say give the term drinking back to just like soft drink people, do you drink? Oh yeah, I love drinking. I have 3 Diet Cokes a day. Did a matcha latte earlier,
Yeah, I had some water earlier.
Yeah.
I did chug a 32-ounce cup of water in preparation to test to see if I could do it before the podcast. So I will be peeing at the Malcolm in the Middle break this time around.
I remember like being at like a babysitter's house or whatever, and like or like a daycare rather. Mm-hmm. A bunch of us kids had water bottles, and we were like trying to like chug them, and I wasn't very good at it. But it's just kind of like, dang, like drinking culture is so pervasive that just a bunch of 7-year-olds just hanging out are like trying to chug, hypothetical beers, just living that frat life at 7 years old. Like, it's kind of funny.
No, I mean, I had a very similar experience. I was probably like 8 or 9, and someone was like drinking a lot of water or something like that. And I was like with my family, and I started chanting chug, chug, chug. And my mom was like very put off by that. She was like, where did you learn that? That's like not that's something children should be, getting their hands on, is like chugging culture.
It is, if you think about it, every kid knew about chugging.
Yeah.
Like it was like, that was, chugging is not exclusively an alcohol thing, even though I guess it kind of is. But there's kids chugging too.
Well, who was chugging a whole lot of sponsored Budweiser was Ricky Gervais in the movie The Invention of Lying. Welcome to Extended Clip. It is episode 321, and I am one of your hosts, Eddie Averill.
I'm Malcolm Baum.
I'm JT White.
And as I said, we'll get to the product placement angle of this, but this modestly budgeted comedy directed by Ricky Gervais and Matthew Robinson really kind of has a strange dichotomy where it's kind of like Adbusters cinema at one point. Like, it's all about just like false advertising is like a multiple gags in the movie, like about Coca-Cola commercials and stuff like that, where they're giving them the business. But at the same time, it also has some extremely blatant product placement, like Happy Madison level, maybe even more flagrant than Happy Madison level product placement in this, between the Budweiser and the Pizza Hut.
Small part of them, but it is kind of like the movie is kind of like gone completely off the rails at that point, and it's just like Ricky Gervais is supposed to be rich, and he's just eating Pizza Hut and Budweiser.
Yeah.
Not much imagination there.
That's his scathing critique of American culture from the far east of England.
Yeah.
Calling England the Far East rules. I'm going to start doing that a lot more.
I know we're about to go in on this movie probably, but I guess every finger we point, there's a finger pointing back at us. So
True.
that is, we're not immune to criticism too.
That is true.
The story you're about to see takes place in a world where the human race has never evolved the ability to tell a lie.
We are talking, of course, about The Invention of Lying, the 2009 film by Ricky Gervais, his big vanity project, if you will. It is a rough one. We had talked about like how we hadn't, watched any bad movies for the podcast in a while, and I think that Malcolm chose this one. Like you said it in our group chat, and I was just like, oh hell yeah, like we made fun of this movie in passing a few months back, and it's time to finally give it its justice. It's day in court, if you will, and bring JT into the fold, because he wasn't on that episode where we talked about it. But the actual act of watching this was fucking brutal. Does not help that, like, to watch a bad comedy at like 7 a.m, I guess. It was rough. And I want to, before we get into this more, quickly correct myself. Gervais does have like 10 directorial credits according to Letterboxd, but they're all like kind of like vanity projects, like him as David Brent. It's kind of like an Office catch-up kind of thing, and then some of his specials and extras stuff.
There's one that I feel like also might merit exploration called Cemetery Junction from 2010.
That looks like the closest to a quote-unquote real movie that he has co-directed alongside Stephen Merchant in that one, but also does not look very real.
I never knew about this. This looks crazy.
I was so put off by this movie that I just did not even look into like his directorial oeuvre, which also includes a like deleted scene from this movie that was repurposed as a short film called The Dawn of Lying, where Louis C.K. plays a caveman, and you get a little Carl Pilkington cameo as well. If you don't know, Carl Pilkington is the mentally challenged man who Ricky Gervais made fun of on the radio for about a decade, because that's his style of comedy. A lot of people, if you listen to old podcasts, people are like, oh yeah, the Ricky Gervais podcast, that was the first real one. That was the real thing. You try and listen to that, man. It is horrifying. Like, it is just so stupid and bad, and not stupid in the good way. But regardless, Malcolm, tell us a little bit about your selection here beyond just wanting to watch a bad movie for the pod.
Yeah, I feel like, as we kind of discussed, and it seems like, JT made a tweet about how, the trailer to this was the first time you ever heard Mr. Blue Sky, which is, I feel like we kind of have a strange sense of nostalgia, maybe not for the movie itself, but like, at least I do, like this time period where I feel like around '09, I'm pretty young. I'm like, I can't even do the math to guess.
I was in middle school at the time.
Yeah.
I think it was like 7th or 8th grade when this movie came out.
Yeah, I remember being in 8th grade about to graduate. Like this came out, I believe, in the summer before I graduated, went into high school. Yeah.
The way I got into like entertainment, like TV shows and movies, was comedy first. Like I always liked funny stuff. And, around this time, '09, Ricky Gervais is like a huge, big deal. You know what I mean? He's just like mainstream comedy talent that's, that the studios are, pushing on you. And, everyone makes fun of him now, right? Like everyone makes fun of that photo where he's like dressed like Jesus or whatever, like he's posing like Jesus, and he's like super into atheism, which just feels super dated, but it is like, I think what I mentioned when we were talking about it before, Eddie, it's like there was a time when he was kind of in good favor, when he was kind of like respected, people. And I haven't seen Extras. Maybe Extras is good, and maybe I haven't seen like the stuff when he was like respected. So I kind of, I was so young. This was my introduction to the stylings of Ricky Gervais, and I'm trying to like I was trying to remember, like, not to take it back to memory lane too much, but I was just like, I can't remember if I saw this movie as a kid or just really wanted to, because I as a young one, I would look up a lot of trailers on YouTube, and I wouldn't watch the movie itself, but I would just be like interested in movies. There was this like Philip Seymour Hoffman movie where he like goes boating or something. It's called like Jack Goes Boating, and I remember just watching the trailer to that like all the time. Never saw it, but
that was his directorial effort as well.
But yeah, anyways, so I just wanted to inspect this, and also, just like, it's such a concept movie that the concept always stuck with me. Maybe kind of the perverted angle that's in the trailer where Ricky Gervais goes up to like a hot blonde woman and is like, we have to have sex or the world's about to end. Mm-hmm. And like, just that kind of weird perverted scenario maybe stuck in my head as a kid. So I don't know. It's after, rewatching the movie, it's not really much to write home about, but it's something that's stuck in the craw of my head, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, because I'm sure there are some younger listeners who don't remember this movie in release, or maybe older ones who have completely memory hold, at which, hey, I would not blame you. I would like to not have the memory of this movie as well. The Invention of Lying is a high-concept, fantastical comedy film where the world is one in which nobody has ever lied. Everyone has always told the truth, and we follow our main man, played by Ricky Gervais, in a town outside of Boston in Massachusetts, where the only person with a regional accent is Ed Norton, I guess. And he discovers upon a financial crisis that he is able to tell things to people that are not the truth. They don't even have a word for truth in this world. It's just something that is or isn't, as it were. And so he has his ragtag group of, a pretty deep bench of supporting actors who clearly, took their SAG minimum for one day of work to buddy up with Ricky Gervais, because, as Malcolm said, this was a point in time where he was like a hot commodity, like the mid to late 2000s. He was a big deal and like was actually respected. The Office UK was a huge crossover hit, and Extras, of course, rerunning on HBO during like the peak of prestige HBO stuff. People were really getting into this guy, and they brought him on like Curb Your Enthusiasm, and he hosted the Golden Globes, and he was a well-respected comedian. There was even that god awful special where it was him Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, and Louis C.K. just figuring it out, just talking about stand-up. And the thing is, he was new to stand-up too. Like, apparently he had only been a stand-up for like a couple years when he got famous. He had been, I guess a writer, actor, performer, whatever. Like, he had been in the comedy biz, but it's very strange and, just looks very out of place with the comedy icons around him. And I think that this movie might be where the tides begun to turn for Mr. Gervais. I always want to call him Monsieur Gervais because, the movie made its money back and then some, because it was like a very highly promoted comedy movie with a guy people liked and a lot of supporting characters people liked. But it also only cost $15 million. So it was, kind of at once both a success and a bomb. It was underwhelming. It wasn't like a smash hit, but it more than made its money back, But I feel like this was the point in time where people were like, all right, maybe there's a slight emperor has no clothes scenario going on with this king of scathing social satire. JT, what do you remember about this movie coming out?
I remember in particular, definitely,
Mr. Blue Sky, of course, introducing you to one of the great trailer songs ever.
Of course. And I think this definitely started a wave of it happening after that. Mr. Blue Sky had the trailer moment. But other than that, I never saw it upon initial release. I was talking to Nico about it, and he was like, when he was a boy, he definitely had a Reddit atheist moment where he said he has a copy of this on DVD alongside Religulous. And it's I was so enthused. But yeah, I never saw it when it came out. There was a second run movie theater in my hometown where one of my best friends, she got felt up for the first time on a date to see the Invention of Lying, which is
going back to the very beginning of this podcast, I feel like that's been a recurring theme. It's very slightly recurring, but 3 or 4 times we have relayed stories of people making youthful, sensual conquests at very specific movies. I remember maybe an inversion of that scenario, someone describing at Cars 2, if I recall correctly.
Oh yeah, no, that was the first time I felt someone up. I just distinctly remember because it was not a long-lived romantic affair. But I remember reading a handwritten note that had the invention of lying on it. And so this movie has always stuck in my craw. And I don't know. It was something I went in obviously kind of expecting it to be dog shit awful. But you go in, I'd say somewhat optimistic. I was there's got to be something here, but I was really blown away by how just not even they're making bad jokes in the first before you get to the setup where he invents lying, but it's just premises kind of. It's it is the premise of the movie as a whole feels almost allergic to comedy because the world set up here, it's not only can people not lie, but they have no filter in their heads. The concept of not lying seems to be I have no internal monologue. So I'm not to CinemaSins style pick apart this premise, but it's just people are just blurting out things to a person when they see them, which is I don't think it's lying to see someone who I'm not attracted to and be you're an ugly pig, just something like that. There's a cynicism so entrenched in it from the very beginning, and just it's not funny.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the film started out like the screenplay started out as just like a sketch, right? Like a comedy sketch. And I could see it, even though, as JT said, it's not executed well. But people liked it at the time, like at least those gags, I was just blown away reading the very positive 3.5 out of 4 star review by one Roger Ebert of this movie, who describes that setup as opening with a series of funny and relentlessly logical episodes, which is just like, that really is a great way to take the temperature of what like the culture of comedy and satire was in 08, 09. At this point, the funny guy comedies of Adam Sandler and Jim Carrey and everything had been, long past passé. And like the Farrelly brothers were kind of inching toward the nadir of their career as well. And, it was like the rise of the Apatow moment and like more dramatically structured comedies and like more kind of low-key feeling things, more character pieces, if you will. And so I don't know why it just like really checks out to me that Roger Ebert found this so delightful, where it is so bad on every level. Like, we've mainly talked about how bad the comedy is so far, and we'll get deeper into it, but like this movie looks like a Friedberg and Seltzer movie. Like, the lighting is so garish, and the cinematography in general, it's like weirdly overexposed or underdeveloped or something, where it just looks, or like undersaturated. I don't know. There are scenes where it's like, is this supposed to look black and white or something like that? Like, it just is so textureless and tasteless, and it really does feel like you're watching like a low rent sketch comedy show, and that's fine. Like, I watch plenty of comedy shows that don't have great lighting or camera work, and it's fine because of it. Not everything has to be like Louis or Entourage or something like that. And we'll get to Louis, but like, it just looks that shoddy for the entire time. And it's so ridiculous. And like, also, it seems like the entire budget was just affording these way too big for this project actors to show up, mostly seemingly for one day or even half of a day, to do like cameo roles. But the thing is, the film doesn't really have any characters beyond its like core 3 or 4 people rather. So these cameos like really fill out the supporting cast in a way that Gervais must have thought was really clever. Like, oh, if I can get 10 people to make cameos at their SAG rate or whatever, like not their actual rate, their minimum, I can save a lot of money and they all respect me, so they'll do it. I was reading something about like Philip Seymour Hoffman apparently rejected the role, or like his agent did, and then Ricky Gervais wrote him like a letter with a bunch of dirty jokes in it or something, and so he felt compelled to do it. But like, this is Philip Seymour Hoffman, like, bearded out, just like clearly was like, I'm not going to do anything for this role. Like, I'm going to show up, say a couple lines, and walk off set, and that is all you're gonna get from me. Like, one of the things about the production was like, Louis was very apprehensive about shaving his signature goatee, but I guess Gervais eventually convinced him to do so for the purpose of a scene that is not in the movie, which is ridiculous also.
Just imagining like a strung out like Hoffman like getting the dirty joke letter and just being persuaded for that is, oh my god. Like,
I mean, look, it was like 5 years or maybe even longer since P.T. Anderson gave him a call, because he wasn't even in There Will Be Blood. He was just like, I'll do this bullshit, like, when are the good roles gonna come calling for me again? I gotta pay for my painfully tragic addiction.
Well, I mean, it's such a nothing role too. He's just like there, and like
literally anyone could have done that role.
Yeah, anyone could have played that role. And it's interesting you bring up Apatow, right? Because I don't know, I feel like, at least I have in retrospect, maybe I don't like some of those movies as much when they were, as when they were released. But there's still some classics of their own, right? Like Superbad, you know what I mean? But like, what was so good about those movies is that they were kind of like star makers, right? And
Yeah.
they were loaded with like these heavy casts, you know, that people who became popular through these movies. And then, you know, as it went along, you know, they did like This Is the End. They really like got into that aspect of those movies, you know, for better or for worse. But it was cool, like seeing people like, you know, Seth Rogen, Jay Baruchel, you know, regardless of what you think of their public image now, it was cool to see them organically rise like that. Whereas this movie kind of just feels like busy work for actors to like make money. Like it's almost like a daycare or something like that, where everyone just gets to like put in minimum effort and make money. And it doesn't result in a good movie, but it is like, I would rather these stars be here than not. Just because then you're right, like the threads come apart at the seam even more so than they already do, because it's like, yeah, because it's not a well shot movie. It's kind of
Not at all.
it's kind of, the budget is like low. It's a little bit more low rent than maybe you'd expect.
Yeah.
You know, if we have a bunch of nobodies in those roles, I feel like you would really start to notice it, even though you do notice it, you know, regardless. But it is like, it's like, what is this movie if like Ed Norton doesn't show up for 5 minutes and Tina Fey doesn't show up for 5 minutes? Like this movie's literally nothing without its like celebrity cameos, which is like, I don't know, just very funny given like Gervais's persona or the edge to him, right? Like, I mean, I guess even like later with the Golden Globes, he goes on to own all these celebrities, right? Calling them like pedos or something like that. So it is kind of funny just to see a movie where Gervais is just completely like, yeah, it's just star power. And also it's like, it's completely like sanded off at the edges. It does have its like first 40 minutes of like laboriously going through its like dumb concept. But then it goes like completely Hollywood. It goes like completely like a Hollywood bullshit movie that focuses on the love interest, where Ricky Gervais is just like moping around because like girls aren't into like fat ugly guys or something like that. It's like there's a lot of like body image stuff with Ricky Gervais
and
in
also,
this movie. It's just so annoying. It's so lame.
And just like an insanely like weird dying mom plot that is not like played for any gags either. Is supposed to be like to explain why the ultimate lie, religion, was invented. Is just like, no, well, like the unpleasant, the misery you have to deal with in the world is so bad. And it's just like, it's just insane, because I feel like Gervais kind of thinks that like, okay, well, this is a movie, we can't be like entirely like cynical edge, like we have to soften it a little bit to give people the like I don't know, traditional structure of like a romantic plot or whatever to like make things feel a little bit better or whatnot. But like, it doesn't, I mean, not to say that this would be a better movie without any of that. It would probably be just as bad, but it's just like those moments where it's not even trying to be funny, trying to like get emotion out of this is like, what are we doing here?
No, JT, I feel like you're even being generous with him being like, well, this can't be like a cynical thing. We have to add like an aspect of, I literally just think it was just pure laziness.
Yeah.
Like the way this movie like ends with like the romantic subplot and just a lack of creativity and like imagination for a movie that's like the whole, like making a movie like this. It's like you're supposed to be bursting at the seams with, you know, something like that to make something like this work.
Yeah, I mean, I also am just like mystified by how low rent this looks. Like, it's just so ridiculous. I can't get over it because, yeah, you say there's not much of a budget, but it's an $18 million budget, which makes me think,
it's not nothing, yeah.
It makes me think he paid himself very handsomely for this movie because he was the writer, director, producer, and star. I think he cut himself like a really big check and just hired like the cheapest crew possible, because you look at other contemporaneous films like Superbad, right? Big comedy from that era, $20 million, only $2 million more, like a pretty comparable budget. And obviously, you know, this is a real stretch, but just another 2009 comedy. If you're looking at the worst comedy of 2009, it's this, and it cost $18 million. The best comedy of 2009 cost $7 million. it was also made by the Coen brothers, who know what they're doing with A Serious Man. But just thinking about like the production values of that and the ability to hide a lack of budget is just absurd. And so the more that I think about that, the more I think that he was just like, maybe not even paying these guys their pay cut rates, but like actually giving Ed Norton his day rate and giving, Tina Fey and Louis C.K. like the money they were asking for, which is just so funny for a movie like this that is just completely DOA. As we said, like it takes so long to get into its premise proper, like it takes like 20 minutes just to do just get as many gags as it can out of the quote unquote truthful world before he invents lying in that series of gags that Roger Ebert called relentlessly logical, which honestly my closest comp to that, more than like the late 2000s atheist streak of comedy culture, it kind of reminded me of like a Z-grade Yorgos Lanthimos movie. Like it kind of reminded me of like the humor of The Lobster, And
no, I don't think you're wrong. Like it does kind of feel, maybe it's just because of its like high concept or whatever. Like that's something that could fit in within like this art house ponderous realm of like, let's examine humanity or whatever, which, of course this movie, and everyone loves to shit on Yorgos, which I don't even like, but it's just like, obviously he's better than Invention of Lying.
Oh, this movie, like making that connection made me want to up my ratings on all of his movies. Just like a little bit, like I've been too hard on that guy. Like he at least, doesn't seem blind, like he's looking at the monitor before he calls action.
I don't know this is just a random aside, but I don't know, I'm kind of almost in like PTA Paul Thomas Anderson mode, where I just like, maybe it's because I used to do it so much in the past, but it's like, I'm not gonna have too strong opinions on like these popular art house directors. I'm just gonna see what they put out, if I want to see it.
Yeah.
But what you were talking about before with Gervais cutting himself a check and, maybe possibly all the other actors, getting some higher pay grade, that does go in line with my, this is just, Hollywood welfare, basically, what I mean? Just a bunch of guys getting to, pal around with people of similar popularity. And, you show up to set, you say the lines, you don't think about the movie too much, and you kind of keep it moving.
It's funny because I was saying like he probably got the cheapest crew available. Like, well, I will say the editing is awful in this, and the editor was like someone who worked for Danny Boyle a lot, so that kind of checks out, is from the Far East, if you will. But like the cinematographer did a lot of big comedies that look good enough. They really just look like their era. Cinematographer Tim Surdist, I can't say this name, did like some Sandler. He did Office Space, Bill and Ted. The production designer is Richard Kelly's production designer, and then that just made me stop. I was like, wait a second, the guy who did the production design for Donnie Darko and Southland Tales did this, and that's how it is, as Malcolm called it, Hollywood welfare, because that guy, there is no way he put any effort into this if he was the guy creating the worlds of those movies.
Random connect the dots thing, but I'm looking at the cinematographer's page, and he shot the movie where Kelsey Grammer is like friends with like an autistic boy or something, or not friends, or
I feel like Innocent. I've been wanting to watch that for so long. Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I feel like you've mentioned that before.
It's not that he's like friends with him.
Yeah, friends is the wrong term.
It's kind of like it's kind of just like a nightmare episode of Frasier, where, because it's in the 90s too. It's during the peak of Frasier, and Kelsey Grammer plays a cop, much like Frasier's dad, who is like he's using this autistic 9-year-old boy as the one witness in a murder that takes place. And it really does sound like just like the worst nightmarish scenario possible from Frasier. But Dean Stockwell is in the movie. Jack Black is in the movie.
Oh, wow.
It's one that I've wanted to watch for quite some time. Directed by the great Mimi Leader.
You know what's another aspect of this movie I think is kind of like outdated and kind of like lacking imagination? Like it's also like there's like a portion of it that's like dedicated to like office satire.
Yeah.
But it's like derivative. It's like the same stuff we saw like with like Office Space and a bunch of other movies before it, where it's like the drudgery of like a 9-to-5 life, you know what I mean? And given the current economic climate, you know, people like that stuff doesn't even really ring true anymore to most people. But it's like, I feel like it's just a type of milieu that Gervais is examining, like just like 10 years after everyone else did. Like, and I think that's I kind of mentioned it a little bit before, but like that's kind of what's disappointing about this movie the most, is like, you know, whether it's good or bad, like this movie should have like an imagination to it, and it's just like so dull. It's like the dullest thing ever, and like everyone, including Gervais, seems to be like sleepwalking through it. Like it's very dull, and there's like a lack of effort.
Well, the thing is, like, he was critiquing office culture or whatever with The Office, but what I was thinking about is that if David Brent, that character, is the one good role he's ever played, which I'll give him that. I'll totally give him The British Office, which we talked about how now is only referred to as The British Office, which is pretty great. But, you know, him playing that role that American viewers might know as the Michael Scott role, like, that's the opposite of him in this. Like in this one, he is the logical one. He is the straight man. He is the entryway for the viewer to identify with this film. And it's almost just like he was thinking like, well, they've had enough of me as the asshole. I want to be on the side of the people, the common man, the logical man. And the result is just so fucking boring. It's ridiculous. We didn't really talk about like the details of the film. So he works at a production company that in this world, because fiction are all lies, you know, he works for a documentary company, which are the only types of movies. And, you know, they're documentaries where a guy just looks into camera and tells you a story. And for some reason, when they're showing an example, it's like they put like a silent film type or like old-timey movie filter on it for a little bit, where it's like you see the film grain and it sounds all worry and stuff. And it's like, I don't even get like what was attempted there as a gag. Like, how does that check out with this universe at all? But regardless, he gets fired by his boss, Jeffrey Tambor. See, the thing is, we have to walk through the plot so that we can just like hit all of these cameos that are just like, what are they doing here? You got, you know, a third of Arrested Development between Jeffrey Tambor and Jason Bateman doing classic 2000s bad doctor shtick. And frankly, some of the worst of the 2000s bad doctor shtick, unfortunately. So also at his office, you have Liz Lemon herself playing his secretary, and his adversary in the office is Rob Lowe. You also have Jonah Hill as just like an underling at the office who is suicidal, and all he really does is just like, you know, one of the first lies that Ricky Gervais tells him is just like, don't kill yourself, I'll hang out with you.
That was like the first time Jonah Hill's like, I'm gonna kill myself. I thought that was like a lightly funny. Like I was like, okay.
I mean,
like
that's peak Jonah Hill, 2007. Yeah. He looks very young and very fat, and you know, everything that came out of his mouth was gold.
Also, it should be pointed out that 75% of this cast has been convicted for sex crimes now. So make of that what you will.
That is true. That is true. I mean, it comes down to when he's exposing the lie the first time, he's bouncing this idea, Ricky Gervais that is bouncing this idea off his friend and his bartender, which if you told me anyone as the lead actor was in a scene and his two confidants were Philip Seymour Hoffman and Louis C.K., I was like, oh, that would be awesome. That would be a great scene no matter who the third guy is and no matter what the script is. Horrible, just horrible comedy. The way that it's shot is that like it makes it obvious that they were trying to emulate that like Apatow riff style kind of thing, because the angles are constantly changing. Like they're changing what take they're using. Like every single line is a cut, you know, and they just had to cobble something together because there's no way there was any actual improvisational magic on set, you know? Like it must have just felt so dead. Like they shot that scene for 9 hours. And they're like, all right, Phil, you can go home now. And we'll get our 3 minutes out of it. But when he asks Louis C.K. what he would do if he could do anything in the world, it is, you know, he does imply non-consensual sex.
If you could change anything, if you could do anything, what's the first thing you do?
If I could do anything?
Anything at all.
Anything at all.
I would touch girls' boobs.
Yes.
And maybe have sex with them, too.
Oh, agreed. That too.
Also, what like I was trying to get like a screenshot of the scene, you know, with Louis C.K., Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Gervais all in the same frame, kind of like, I bet you didn't remember this, you know, kind of thing. And it's like, there's not that, it doesn't exist in the movie. You don't, there's no shot of all three of them together in the same shot. And it's like, you know, it's very like, yeah, like it has that, like going for that Apatow feel, but it also just kind of feels like television coverage, you know what I mean? Like with the...
No, you make a great point there where, like it may have been that there's no chemistry and they were scared to show all three people together. And there is also an even better chance that they were never on the same stage together.
Also, Louis C.K., I mean, it's, you know, it's his character. He's supposed, but Louis C.K. looking very schlubby here.
Yeah.
The schlubbiest I've seen Louis C.K. ever look, to be
Well,
honest.
it's also the no goatee thing really throws me off there, because that's like the iconic part of his look at that era, and it's like freshly shaven after it had been there for like 8 years probably.
Yeah, you could see the rawness on his cheek.
Like I'll be the first to admit that Louis is not like the greatest dramatist of an actor, you know, like he executes comedic bits very well on his own TV show that came out the year after this and on Horace and Pete, but like he has a very limited range of acting, and yet I always enjoy him as a performer in TV and movies. Like even when he's like, it's obvious in Parks and Rec that he is trying really hard and not succeeding very well in his few episodes, but I still find him affable in that. This, no. Like, I can't even get on board with Louis doing drunk driving, mugging, like, and there's a part toward the end where he has to convince Ricky Gervais to go to Jennifer Garner's wedding to break it up, and it is the laziest acting in, like, a second act break type thing I've ever seen. Like, you know what I'm talking about, listener, the romantic comedy trope of the best friend telling him, no, you gotta go get her, you know? Louis tries less in that scene than I've ever seen anyone try.
You haven't lost yet, man.
Yeah, it's not a very good performance. You know, not that the material is very great, but it's just like, you know, if you're a guy, you know, you're a guy who's maintaining your image as an actor or whatever, it's just like you come off looking pretty bad here. Like it's same with Jennifer Garner too, where I mean
horrible. And Roger Ebert loved her performance. He gassed it up. He was like the brilliant and effortlessly beautiful Jennifer Garner.
Well, effortless is right.
Yeah.
I think Ebert was getting too much into the message, just like dude, hot girls should marry chubby boys, you know what I mean? That's I think Ebert was just on, he's just like Ricky's got a point there, you know?
Chaz reading that review over his shoulder, getting the rolling pin out.
Also, yeah, that's like it's so annoying with like the Jennifer Garner character. You know, this is how you hear like racists talk now, but like Ricky keeps trying to hook up with her, you know, or like, you know, date her proper, I guess, rather, throughout the movie, and she's like, well, no, or genetic material would be a bad match, and it's said like fucking like 7 or 8 times, and it's like it's like it's not even that funny, but it's like if you say it like once or twice, it's like okay, whatever, but it's just like I don't know, it's just repeated so many times throughout the movie where I'm just like, we just got to come up with a different line, or
Well,
there just has to be something different in this scene, or like
it's just no character has any, or none of the cast has any character other than like Ricky Gervais sort of being like smarter than everyone else to invent lying. Everyone is just like a flat board, and her character essentially boils down to being something of a eugenicist. In a way, and that's just like, it's such a weird angle, because it's just like, is like it, you can feel the like seething resentment towards like women that have rejected Ricky Gervais in his life, because it's like, no, they don't want to fuck me because they don't want fat, ugly kids. That's why. And it's just like building up to that. There is just like nothing his character is doing is like even remotely close to charming or anything else. It is a very wild, like, just sort of cracking his skull and taking a peek inside and being like, I mean, admittedly, it's not even all that much of that because of how lazy it is.
Yeah.
But there are moments where it's just like, oh, okay,
that's how you feel about humanity.
Buddy.
Yeah. It's weird because this was like a notorious Blacklist script, which, by the way, those Blacklist scripts always suck. Like, every time it's just like, oh, the hottest unproduced script in Hollywood. You know, Hollywood didn't want to touch this script. For those who don't know, you know, the Blacklist, it's like a published thing each year of like the scripts that got the most buzz and the most love that aren't being produced. So this was like an '07 Blacklist script, and like, I want to know what was different about it back then, because Gervais, you know, got it sent to him and he was like, oh, I'm going to rewrite this for myself as a star vehicle, you know? And so much of this does just play like a Ricky Gervais stand-up bit in, you know, movie form or whatever. And I don't know what was lost in translation there, but it is, yeah, as we said, just really, really bad. So the kind of fun and games segment, as we you know, get into the premise more, he's showing Louis that, you know, he can lie, and they figure the three things that any man who can invent lying, I guess, would do. First is try to get, you know, laid. Ricky Gervais has a little crisis of conscience when he tells a woman that the world's gonna end if he doesn't sleep with her, and it's like, oh, he learns right and wrong there and at the end when he, you know, doesn't lie to Jennifer Garner to get her. And so that covers one base, and this next one is money. No moral qualms there. Just go to a casino and rip them off. And the third one, the worst sin of all, religion. Did you know that religion has killed more people than all of the wars combined? Religion, it's like 9/11 times a million.
The biggest lie of them all. Ricky wanted to expose the biggest lie of them all with Invention of Lying. It's so funny, like, because I didn't remember the concept really. I mean, I remember just like the lying concept, but I didn't remember how the movie went. And like when he's like describing, you know, like heaven to his like dying mom to like comfort her or whatever. Yeah, I'm like, oh my god, this is where the movie's going, and boy, does it go there. I mean,
well, it's not even like in terms of like atheist movies of this era. I gotta give my flowers to Bill Maher, because at least he went out of his way to like make an actual like fuck religion movie. This is like the most semi-soft, like half-hard like attempt at it, where it's just like, yeah, we're gonna like, religion is kind of bullshit like thing, like where he's like not like it kind of is like, it's, he's never really trying that hard with the satire here. Mm-hmm. It's like and there's no coherent angle sort of built out other than like, yeah, no, religion's fake, just like fiction is lies, like just insane stringing together of ideas there.
You know, I was just thinking about Religulous. Religulous is Bill Maher's movie, for those who don't know, directed by the great Larry Charles, director of Borat, and of course one of the key staffers on the entire run of Seinfeld, who did have a little bit of that streak in him. Religulous was, the Bill Maher agitprop, militant atheism documentary, also given a 3.5-star review by Roger Ebert. So I think Ebert was just in pure ideologue mode, like I think I hate to be tasteless, but started getting sick, started blaming the man upstairs or lack thereof. It's like, all right, because this is 4 years out from him dying. I mean, he got sick long before that, I'm pretty sure. So it's like, oh, if the greatest movie critic of all time can't live to 100, I guess there's no God,
Usually people...
I want to put together a list of these kind of like anti-religion movies from the late 90s, 2000s. I mean, you could even throw Kevin Smith's Dogma in there. That's one of the great religious satires of them all, which I've never even watched all the way through.
Should we just do an atheism month where we just do atheism movies?
I don't think that would play as well as the Mad Men miniseries, but maybe that appeals to the other side of our audience.
Yeah.
I want to own all the worshipers in our audience, man. Stop going to church. Put this on. Let it be your Sunday service.
Yeah, when you're playing extended clip on the way to church, you just they're talking about what? Just turning it off.
Did you know that Dogma by Kevin Smith is 130 minutes long?
My God, that's at least one thing you could give Invention of Lying. It is 100 minutes.
Yeah. Also, it has in common with that. It's like I want now. I'm just on a Dogma kick. I really want to watch it now because it was shot by Robert Yeoman too, who shoots all of Wes Anderson's movies, and it's like it looks like a Kevin Smith movie, Just the fact that certain people really show up and really don't show up on certain days of work, as we were talking about with the Hollywood daycare approach to filmmaking. I do like that concept, Malcolm. That's a great way of stating it.
Like Martin Starr is like literally like he just gets to like say a snarky line. Like I like Martin Starr, of course, but I'm just thinking like I feel like he had a lot of these roles where he would just show up and he wouldn't have to do much, just kind of be the guy we know him as for like a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that really is like, I don't know. Like I don't want to disrespect the hard work that these people put in, but it's like that's a real nice gig there.
Honestly, this movie feels like something his character from Party Down would really like.
True.
Ordinary fucking people. One of the great jokes ever. Anyway, yeah, so as we said, he invents religion while trying to comfort his mother, and then it goes, global, and it's like he's like the biggest thing in the news all over the globe, and he, has to write his version of the 10 Commandments, but this is how little respect he has for religion. He writes it on a Pizza Hut box. I mean, come on, man. That's comedy right there. So he comes out with the Pizza Hut box in, I'm going to refer to it again, what Roger Ebert called one of the greatest satirical scenes he's ever watched. As he reads out the commandments and is pestered by the crowd, which includes a young Eric Andre arguing with him for a little bit. Seeing Eric Andre there, I was like, oh, my heart sunk for a little bit.
What kind of mansion?
The best mansion you could think of.
I was thinking of a horrible mansion.
What? No.
I mean, it has the same riff energy that bar scene has with Philip Seymour Hoffman, where it's just like, it's just so like kind of like low energy, and like every single thing from the audience is supposed to make you think like, oh, like it is funny, with these religion and rules, right? It's like, where did they even come from? Like, and Ricky's like making it up, and it's like there's like an obvious way to go with this movie, like, you know what I mean, like this going to his head and like him becoming an asshole, but like the movie doesn't take that opportunity. That's what's kind of like most disturbing about this movie, is that like in the second half of the movie, like Ricky Gervais is acting like he's a fucking movie star, and like
but not even in a fun way. Like there's no jokes about his arrogance and like flippant attitude. He's just like, I'm just gonna hang out and drink beer, drink Budweiser, thank you very much. And man, if if there was a count for how many times a Budweiser label is facing the camera, we would literally run out of numbers.
I feel like there's like a 20-minute stretch of this movie where like he starts like lying for good, and like he's like helping out the people in his life, like he's helping out the people at the old folks home, and like the lady who doesn't want to go into work or whatever, and he's got like a fucking like Brad Pitt twinkle in his eyes or something like that, and it's just like, it's like, or at least is attempting for that. Like when I say movie star, I don't mean like, you know, Vinny Chase, you know, gallivanting around town. I mean, like, he feel like it within like the structure of this movie, he really wants to pull off of like this being like a guy you root for rather than like, you know, a guy who's funny.
Yeah, it just boils down to every other character is a dumb asshole and he's the man. Like, it's that in that scene where he is delivering his commandments, literally all the volleys are just like, there is just people reacting stupidly and then buying religion because they're dumb. I mean, aside from like the many recurring jokes about like Ricky Gervais being like fat and ugly, which are not even really presented as jokes because they're just people telling the truth. They're just like there's nothing really at his expense. No one like one-ups him with cleverness.
Also, in addition to that, like, yeah, you have like the stuff of like his mom dying, or like his like sincere romantic pleas to like Jennifer Garner. Like, there's like a scene where they're like sitting on a park bench and it's supposed to be like somewhat romantic or something like that. And there's just like multiple like montages with like weepy transition music towards the back end.
The montages are edited so sloppily. Like, I truly, I think that maybe there's a lack of footage, and maybe the editor was just like telling his AEs like, you guys do this, and they were just like, we don't get paid enough to actually care about this. Let's just throw this together, you know? Like, it's so poorly assembled. You know, when he's reading out the tablets, they attempt that, you know, the whole world is watching kind of thing, like those mini montages of showing people all across the globe reacting to it. But it's just like three dudes that are supposed to be from Africa listening to the radio, and one Japanese family, and then like a British pub and another American location. Like, that's it. Like, it's just, it's even lazy at attempting lazy jokes, you know?
It's not even racist when it should, there should be a racist joke there with these people, but it's just like sincerely showing like, no, there's people around the world. Like, there's global interest in this. Like, there's no, like, yeah, you just see it like an Asian family with like one of those, very like mid 2000s TV like sets where it's like a big fucking
wood
thing
panel
with, like, the TV in the middle. I did like seeing that just because of you know, technology, looking at that mid 2000s technology, but there's like nothing to it. Like, it's just completely like all these, because it does that a lot where it's like examining like the crowd or whatever of like Gervais has on his, you know, Sermon on the Mount. And it's just like, there's no humor in it. It's like, it's just like, yeah, it's like a lack of shots, I guess, or something like that. It's just that's for a movie like that. It's supposed to be like, okay, here's a joke here, here's, you know, a joke there. And it's just like, you're supposed to like sincerely accept a lot of shit that like, I feel like if you're like a Ricky Gervais, you know, comedy fan, why would you're not going to see this movie for that type of shit? I don't think.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. You're looking for the edgy humor. You're looking to, you know, look to the person next to you and ask if they're offended.
Yeah, exactly. And this movie doesn't, like JT said it, like, it goes pretty soft on its like religious satire. It's like one of those satires where you're like, so I guess it's like, is religion good? Like, I don't quite, like, it really kind of misses its concept, and you're just like, it kind of gets you on the side of the thing it's trying to make fun of, just because it's so incoherent in its like intention.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there, Malcolm. I hadn't even thought about that, but it's like the movie is, you know, purportedly an anti-religion satire, I guess. But the thing is, this world where there's no invention, or this world where there's no lying, everyone acts like a robot or whatever, and then he gets the girl because he invents religion, and yet he's still making fun of it the whole time. It's very convoluted in that respect, and definitely something that reeks of just like rewrites and maybe needing more rewrites even somehow. Everything is just so sloppily assembled. As you said, JT, this is the kickoff of the Mr. Blue Sky trailer, but the deployment of that needle drop and like some Donovan needle drop in the movie are so just like hit like thudding, just like horrifyingly bad dramatization moments where it's just like, oh, let's get serious for a little bit. Let's change the tone up a little bit. And yeah, it's just, I don't know how much we can even get into it further. So his love with Jennifer Garner, isn't working out because she's more into Rob Lowe because he's more attractive, right? And so she's going to marry Rob Lowe so that she can use his genetic materials. Louis convinces him to go break up the wedding, and that might be the sloppiest scene of the entire film, where he walks in and objects and then walks out of the church, and then like you just get a couple fades and then Jennifer Garner shows up outside. Like they really did not logistically plan out how that was going to be executed in terms of staging and shooting whatsoever. You also get John Hodgman like at the peak of those Mac versus PC commercials. Definitely some stunt casting there. Like this is the era where that dude was on every single commercial break. Like you did not watch TV without seeing him every 10 minutes. He's officiating the wedding there. And yeah, it's just like such a stupid, lazy thing. It's almost like the end where, how at the end of Dirty Work, like there's a joke about how lazy it is, where it's just like, well, that's it. That's the end of the movie. That basically happens here, but sincerely, where Ricky Gervais is like, well, that's it. I got the girl. And then it flashes forward to them having 2 kids.
Yeah, and he's like, his kids like him. That's
yeah, no,
disgusting.
his little fat son is also a smarmy prick who can also lie. What a great time we've all had at the movies today.
Ricky Gervais's Hereditary.
Yeah, we just my main goal of seeing Invention of Lying, is a ardent Ricky Gervais fan who's on, the cutting edge of comedy. I just want him to reproduce. I just want him to his genetic lineage to keep going, and that's my reward for watching the movies. We got a little Ricky.
Does he have no? I was just looking up, does Ricky Gervais have kids? And I got an article that was Ricky Gervais's brutally honest reason for refusing to marry a soulmate or have children.
No soulmates. I don't want a soulmate. No.
Well, he reports to be in a relationship with who he calls his soulmate, but refuses to marry her.
Damn. He also has like kids, but he's like, I don't claim them. They're not, I refuse to accept those kids.
It's so ridiculous. Yeah. And he even made his Netflix show Afterlife is like about how much he loves his wife, or his soulmate, as it were, and that's just, I don't know. There's something weird about that. But anyway, we don't.
And he comes out against common law marriages, He shames
Maybe
it.
I'm pro common law marriage. It's like, this guy's been with this girl for 20 years? They're married. Come on
True.
now, Ricky.
He just doesn't want to be tied to the church. He's like, getting married, I got to go to a cathedral? No, thanks.
I will say maybe the worst tonal shift in the movie is when it tries to do a flashback of within one of his lies about his dad being like a home invader, I guess, and you get Stephen Merchant doing big British mugging and stuff, and I don't know why that should feel more at home than anything, and just doesn't work at all. Also, the location work is so weird. I don't know, you just don't get any part of a real world here. I think it's a very strange choice to shoot this in Lowell, Mass, which must have been a tax break thing, because it doesn't look like a contemporary American city. It doesn't look like anything. It's so surreal. I was like, did they shoot this in England? I truly had to look it up and be like, where the fuck did they shoot this? So look, the movie looks like a VHS rip of a bad movie. It feels horrible to watch. It's not funny. You get a lot of actors that you might like from television and movies phoning it in completely. The moral of the story is convoluted, but if you can extract it, it's pretty stupid. And it's a vanity project for Ricky Gervais. What do you expect? One bullet. JT?
Yeah, one bullet as well. Complete dog shit.
I'm gonna go 1.5 bullets.
Ooh.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Which, just because I and it's not for, you know, logical reasons, much to Ebert's chagrin. It's more just that kind of the nostalgia I was talking about before, where, you know, even though the movie's not good, I kind of just feel some sort of comfort watching all these 2009 comedy celebrities, you know, in their daycare program. You know, maybe watching it with that frame of mind kind of helped me. So it's not even really on the merits of the movie, but I kind of felt like a strange comfort in its mediocrity. Whereas, you know, and I only felt that maybe for like the first half. Once it gets into like its weepy Hollywood bullshit, it becomes pretty insufferable. You know, not that the stuff before is even that great, but I don't know. I felt unlike you guys, I wasn't feeling tortured. I kind of felt a strange sense of comfort. I don't know what that is, but yeah, it's not a good movie. You know, not anything I'd recommend.
I was looking for that sense of comfort, honestly. Like,
yeah.
I was queuing this up. I was like, okay, this is gonna be bad, but it's a movie made with studio money in 2009. You know, shot on film. Like, it'll give me some sort of comforting pleasure. Got so many faces that I love. No. Just couldn't do it. We talked about the trailer earlier. I will leave you guys with this, the final graph from Roger Ebert's review. I saw the trailer for Invention of Lying and expected to dislike it. It's a much better movie than the trailer dares to admit. Today's trailers would make Sophie's Choice into a feel-good story. Watching the movie, I thought, oh yeah, that's right. It's October. Good movies are allowed again.
He was just on some nonsense.
He was on some hospital juice. He was like, he was off a bean for sure. Like that, he's just making no sense.
All right, before we go, I wanna do a test. A test. Was there one part of the movie that you liked or kind of lightly chuckled at? Like, was there even one moment? Because I could think of one or two, and I wanna mention it because even the one I think it's kind of bad, but there's one good thing in it. But
I think there was like one or two Louis line readings that made me crack a little bit of a smile, but never got past the feeling never got past the back of my jaw. You know, like I never let out any sounds while watching this.
Yeah, no, I would say I smiled during the bar scene to see just the conversation between those three men. Unfortunately, we can't get those. I mean, not to say they were actually ever in a room together, but I would love to have them in a room together.
All right, the one moment I think is kind of good is, well, first of all, it comes with like a concept that I find is just very, I don't know, it kind of feels like outdated, but I don't even know if that's the right term for it. Like, it's just like kind of just bizarre when Jennifer Garner gives him the birthday sex coupon.
God damn it.
Yes.
A sex coupon is just like, I don't know what the word to describe, but there's just something so funny about it. Not in the way that like they think is intentional, but it's just like, I don't know, like I almost want to use like Reddit as an adjective, or
it is like
there's just something. Yeah.
It's adjacent to that, but like the concept of like a transactional coupon with someone you love to have sex is like the most repellent, unerotic thing that I think it comes around to being hilarious. Like imagine you're like in the heat of an argument, or just like not even like they're just like doing something at work. You show up to the wife's at the office, and I'm like, I'm cashing it in. I'm cashing
Yeah,
it in.
you have to
You gave it
respect
to
it.
me. You gave it to me. I got it. Come on now.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like, you know, it's so anti-erotic, you know what I mean? It's so repellent. But I do like the face Gervais makes when, like, he explains to Garner, you know, you shouldn't have sex until you're married. Then she gives him the sex coupon. And he does give his one good acting performance where he kind of gives a mug where he's like, but I thought that mug was like, he gave I thought that was like a B+, A- level mug from Gervais for a movie. He's like very catatonic, you know what I mean? Like, so it was good to see him come alive for 3 seconds.
Yeah, so that is going to do it for the invention of lying. Pretty bad stuff. Anyway, that's going to do it for the invention of lying on Extended Clip and this entire episode. You can always email us at extendedclippodcast@gmail.com. You can also join us for an extra episode every week for $5 a month on Patreon. The link will be in the description. You can find lots of stuff on there, you know, a good 2/3 of our Mad Men miniseries, which we recently wrapped up, is on the Patreon, as well as just a ton of the backlog stuff. You can even go back, listen to that Southern Comfort episode Malcolm and I did, where we actually talked about this movie, Invention of Lying, from our memories. So that, you know, that's like the sequel or the prequel, if you will. But, you know, it was worth it to go back and watch this, I guess. No,
Eddie can't even
not.
convince himself.
No.
No, it was worth it. This was one of those times where we needed to do it.
We did.
The Invention of Lying is like Hallmark extended clip. It needed an episode.
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't watched a bad movie in a really long time for the podcast. Like, I can't really remember the last time we did a bad movie. Like, it must have been months and months and months ago, you know? So I think that's a worthy cause. Sometimes you just got to dig into the dog shit and just be like, look, I got to see what it's all about. You know, you got to see what it's all about. I think Xanadu was the last bad movie we watched. Yeah. And that was like fucking, you know, back in February, 5 months since we did a bad movie on the pod. So this is worse than Xanadu, for whatever that's worth. If you're on your, you know, worst extended clip movies ranked list.
Also, it's like, it's almost easier to podcast with a bad movie. You know what I mean? Like, you just like,
I think there's a middle ground that's worse, but yeah, like a great movie is easy to pod about. Like, we could go hours on, you know, like, I don't know why I'm thinking about The Master because of Philip Seymour Hoffman. Like, that one, I remember, like, we could have gone 3 hours on The Master, easy. Invention of Lying, also very easy to talk about. Anything in the middle, it's a little harder to talk about, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you're right, because it is like, the greatest stuff that you feel passionate about. Yeah, talking's very easy, but it's very easy to pick on people, look down on them, you know, especially when they deserve it. It's just it comes natural to us, you know.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, we will see you soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.